This is the fucking rad snowboarding podcast. Welcome to our 6th episode and our first episode of 2016. Ken Achenbach is the father of Canadian snowboarding. He founded the Snowboard Shop, Canada's first snowboarding shop, in the early 80s. And he still runs the Camp of Champions in Whistler, which is one of the world's best summer snowboard and ski camps. And he helps run a catboarding and heliboarding operation called Powder Mountain, just south of Whistler. I've ridden there with the Boardroom Snowboard Shop guys, and it was amazing. Insane terrain, deep snow, and an awesome staff of drivers and guides. Check them out at powdermountaincatskiing.com. We met with Ken at his beautiful house, which overlooks Whistler and Blackcomb mountains.
I've lived in Whistler since part-time since 88 and full-time since 94, I think. My first board was like a rubber strap Sims board, and then I had a 150 FE, and then I rode for Chuck. Right. And then I had the same board till we made the twin tip, and then I rode for Burton. It's funny how one thing when you're 15 can change your life. So, growing up skateboarding and BMXing and all that stuff, I was like, you read Action Now magazine and it's like, I want to go snowboarding. So basically in those days, you just phone the number and, oh, hi.
Did you actually do
that? It's funny. Like I don't even have to close my eyes. I can still see the phone call that changed my life. It's like, hey, Mom, can I borrow your credit card? 805-969-1909. Yeah, I want to buy a snowboard. Hey, this is Tom Sims. Okay, cool. So bought a snowboard, straight from Tom Sims. A couple years later, he's like, hey, you want to come to the Worlds? I'm like, sure. And this was like right after Bob DeNike had put out the first snowboarder mag. I had a picture of Cab bomb dropping off something, and I'm like, oh man, I'm nowhere near as good as those guys. And then I ended up getting second in pipe, so it was pretty funny. So Tom goes, oh, you owe me $75 for shipping, so I'm not going to give you your prize money. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about, dude? That's a contest? This is a business and a contest? What? Okay, fine, whatever. You're not going to give me my prize money. And said, here's your fucking trophy back too, and stuffed it into his chest. When you come from ski racing where everybody's trying to make it really fair for everybody and do a good thing, and then, you go to a snowboard contest where the guy who owns basically the biggest brand at the time is a cheating scumbag, it's just like kind of destroys your enthusiasm for competing. Yeah, well, that's 88 was sort of when, ski construction started going full force. Jake had ski construction, I think, in like 85, 86, I think, when he had the Elite. I love Burton, and it's the only board I'm ever going to ride. Because, when the whole sellout of snowboarding went on, when, Ride went public and sold out and blah, blah, blah. There was, a million people going to Jake and Donna going, hey, man, you should take your company public. Yeah, you make $1 trillion. And Jake's like, no, that's why I'll ride Burton stuff forever. And, it's like he had the opportunity to sell us out. And unlike everybody else, he didn't. If I'd ended up on a LibTech after Barfoot, I'd feel the same way towards LibTech. To me, LibTech and Burton are the two brands. When you look all the way back, there's really only Burton and LibTech that, are made by people that all they care about is making better stuff. Well, me and Neil DeFern made the first twin tip in 86. We drew it up on paper and traced it out and then made molds. And it was awesome. That board was, it was construction-wise and shape-wise and performance-wise. It was so far beyond anything that was out there. I remember laughing with Craig and Duckboy one day and saying, when Craig's first board came out, it was, they changed the nose and tail a little bit, but it was basically a twin tip with different paint. Right. And I remember asking Duckboy, it's like, because he rode for Burton by then, and I didn't. And I'm like, dude, you gotta have one of those in between boards, because I know there's a board, because I remember seeing Craig have basically a Burton twin tip. Yeah. And then they changed it a little bit so it didn't look so much like a twin tip. And Duckboy's like, yeah, I got one. And he goes, they only made 3 of them. Craig's got one, I got one, and I can't remember who's got the other one. And then, I think of things like why Burton's so amazing is because Jake rides with a, little book in his pocket. And if somebody gives him an idea or he gets an idea, he writes it down instead of going, oh yeah, good idea, bro. And then forgetting about it on the next run. He writes it down. Like, you see the Mark McMorrises and the Stales and, the Torsteins. And it's like, I hope they're thinking of how to make snowboards better. Having Craig next door and, he was always about, making it better. That guy was the mad scientist of all time. Burton sucked until Craig came along. And I want to say saved them, because Jake's super smart, but he made their boards awesome. And so Jake was smart enough to listen, and Tom never listened to anybody. It's like, and, I use this example all the time. It's like Tom was into promoting Tom, whereas Burton was into promoting snowboarding. When Tom was promoting Tom, as soon as he lost Craig, because Tom didn't listen to anybody, you know how the story is going to end. And Jake was smart enough to listen to Craig. And, Tom was always, hey, and that guy didn't have the back end to put together what Jake had put together to support the ideas that were coming out of Craig and me and Steve and Duckboy and Brushy and everybody, like everybody's giving all these ideas and, and JG's turning them into this, this wonder product. But, because Jake had the back end to support what was getting created at the front end, they could take it and run with it. But the biggest one is Jake knew that as long as he promoted snowboarding, if you have the best product and you promote snowboarding and you make snowboarding grow, well, you're going to sell more product. So we started the camp in 89, and then we had like 75 kids. And now I think we have more than that in staff. So it's pretty cool. Even though I haven't had my shop since 94, how much the snowboard shop is still influencing snowboarding. Like the people that rode for the shop, like, Dano's kind of out of it for shooting photos now, but he was like the best photographer going. And then Colin writing for Transworld, and, Warbs making boards, and Gary being a filmer, and, just all these, and Boyer making movies, and, just like the people that rode for the shop. It wasn't, yeah, you had to have skills to ride, and, you get on the team, but it was also, you had to kind of fit in with us. I like to think all that chaos rubbed off on everybody, or as one of my friends put it, it's like, dude, if you made it look like you could do it, they figured out that anybody could do it, which is if that's my influence, fine, like all I ever wanted to do was go snowboarding, so that's fine by me. I just wanted somebody to go snowboarding with. That's why I started selling snowboards, because there was nobody to snowboard with. When I bought my first board, I took one run and went, this is the raddest thing ever, this is going to be huge. And I phoned Tom the next day and ordered 6 more. And well, I grew up skateboarding, and then I transitioned into riding BMX, and that was sort of cool. Me and Craig, like, we met in '86 at Sunshine. We both riding white Sorels, or he had white Sorels and we had the leather ones by then. But yeah, we just hit it off, like, like we both rode BMX bikes, and it's funny, it's like, oh, when did skateboarding come into it? It was in it from the beginning. Yeah. It's always been skateboarding. I mean, for example, I always say that snowboarding is big in Canada because of Lance Mountain, Steve Caballero, and Billy Ruff. And you're like, what? And it's like when I went to the World, we'd been selling snowboards for a couple of years by the time I went to the World. And they're like, what, you have a store that just sells snowboards? Why don't you sell skateboards? I'm like, I don't know anybody that makes skateboards. I'm like, well, us. And they're like, okay. So we started buying Powell boards and G&S boards because of Billy. Okay. And then when Billy switched to Vision, we started buying Vision stuff and timed it perfect that, skateboarding blew up in like 85 or 86, something like that. Yeah. And we took all the money from selling skateboards all summer and put on the North American Snowboarding Championships at Sunshine with 20 grand prize money. Craig came, and all the Burton guys came, and Jose Fernandez and Andy Tanner came from Switzerland, and everybody from Canada came. And I mean, it was just a math thing. It was like $100 to enter. If we get 200 people, there's 20 grand. Give it all away. And then then we moved to Sunshine and had the North Americans, and then we got the last year of the North Americans. We got screwed like 2 months before the contest. Sunshine just basically went, yeah, no, I don't think we want to have a contest here. By which time we published all the posters with the prize money, put all the ads in the mags, and then we had to change it to 2 months earlier, so we got like nobody came basically. Right. And we lost our shirts, and that was the end of it. And, back then, everybody that snowboarded was so stoked to share the excitement. Yeah. It was really fun back then, and it's still fun now. And you hear everybody going, "Oh, snowboarding's changed." It's like, no, snowboarding's exactly the same as it used to be. There's just the part that I have a hard time with sometimes is just the everybody wants something from it. It's like, I used to go to Europe a lot. I went every year from like 86 to 2001. And sometimes I think Europeans actually almost get the magic of snowboarding more than North Americans, and Japanese totally get the magic. But it's like, it's about snowboarding. It's not about who's going to sponsor me. Am I going to make money? Am I going to go to the Olympics or the X Games or any of that stuff? It's just, the pure love of snowboarding. The one thing about snowboarding nowadays is it's, really clicky, and, you got to have, I don't really like that photo of me. My fingers are all weird. And, it's like, back then it was like, this guy could be an astrophysicist. The other guy could be a total pothead. The other guy could be a car mechanic. but you were all like, or one guy like Les could be a musician or whatever, and Neil, the mad scientist, and Smitty, the train driver. But you were all absolute best friends because you had this one thing in common, and all the other shit didn't matter. All that mattered, you snowboard? Me too. Hey, let's be friends. Yeah. You know, that new school skiing still has that vibe of snowboarding back in the day. And as long as they don't lose it to fists, and it's super easy to do, man. You're like, we just want to be accepted, when you should never want to be accepted. I mean, you have the most fun in your life when you're hated. Well, everybody can be lucky. That's the thing. It's like so many people are scared to do what they really want to do. Like, do what makes you happy, and you're always going to be happy, so you can't lose, and there's no such thing as failure when you're happy, so do it. What are you scared of? You know, like, send it.
Fucking rad. Shoutouts this week to Craig Williams and Gordon Faulkner, 2 Vancouver skateboarders and rad musicians who recorded Heading Home, the music in today's episode, which is used with permission. This week should be the week we are actually available on iTunes, so go subscribe to us. That'd be awesome. As always, we want to thank you for listening. I can't believe there's people listening from over 20 different countries in the world. That's fucking rad. Come back next Wednesday for another fucking rad snowboarding podcast episode.